Hello, everybody. How's it going? What do I do with my prop? I have a prop today. I'm not going to show you yet, though. Because props, right? Well, I just showed you anyway. Right. Why don't we just do a thing? And then the live show already has to be going when we hit. Oh, don't worry about it. Probably. But Frank says no. And Frank knows best. I'm sorry. Hi, everybody. Webb's here. Frank, Donna, John, Chuck. I'll bet Chuck actually has one of these machines that I'm going to talk about and don't have. I do have one of the machines I'm going to talk about, though. Not one of the Macs. That'll be probably next year, is now my guess. We'll talk about that in a minute. Shh, okay. Stand by. It's the new stuff parade. It is Tuesday, the 17th of November, 2020, and this is macOS Ken Live. I don't know what happened. It's like I was gargling sand before we started the show. Hi, everybody. It's Ken Ray. Welcoming you to another edition of macOS Ken Live. macOS Ken Live is born of the show that I do Monday through Friday called macOS Ken. It is a daily Apple news show. If you have found this on YouTube without knowing about that, it'd be great if you tried both, because I've been doing that for like 15 years. Literally 15 years, not one of those like, boy, I've been doing that for 15 years, like you say in the afternoon. The second half of the show, I'm going to tell you about my adventure with HomePod Mini. Is it really an adventure? I don't know, but I'll try to make it sound like one, because I got one, came earlier than I expected, was kind of resistant setting it up because I didn't know how it was going to go, and you'll never guess how it went. Stay tuned to find out. First half of the show, though, we're going to talk about the new M1 MacBooks. MacBook Air and MacBook Pro are out today. MacBook Mini, I assume, is out as well, although I haven't seen any reviews of that. Maybe people just don't care enough to review it, or maybe it's not out yet. I apologize for not being sure. Got a rundown, though. I believe it was iDownload Blog. God bless them. iDownload Blog went and gathered up a bunch of other reviews. So I just went to their, cornucopia of reviews to keep with the festive holiday season. I went to their cornucopia of reviews and see what they had to say. The Verge says that Apple exceeded expectations, and a lot of people seem to be saying something similar. Processor transitions are supposed to be messy and complicated. Early adopters of new chips usually sign up for broken apps, slowdowns, and weird bugs. Through careful integration of its new processor and its software, Apple has avoided all of that, says The Verge. You don't have to worry about any of the technical details that have enabled the MacBook Air to successfully navigate that transition. The fact that I can say that is perhaps the most impressive thing of all, because it just works. Late 2005, I was on The Wizards of Technology with Digital Bill Douthit, Marcus Sturius, Augustrometer, and myself, just the four of us. And it was around Christmas time. That's how I know it was late 2005, because they said, what is the thing that you would like? If money is no object, what would you, like to wake up and find under the tree? And what I wanted at the time, because I was walking around with a 12-inch PowerBook G4, which I loved. I still miss that machine. But I wanted more screen real estate. So I said I would like one of those, big white iMacs, which, of course, we're still rocking the PowerPC processor. And they all thought I was mad. They were like, why would you do that? Because the Intel processors are coming. And I've always been, and if you listen to macOS Ken, or, in a few minutes, or anything else I've done, I've always been the guy who, like, if you need a machine, you go for the best machine you can get right then. Now, granted, I didn't need an iMac, which is why I did not get one of those. But it's kind of funny, because on the one hand, they were asking a fantasy question. Money's no object, get what you want. And then they're like, well, are you sure that's practical? Thanks, guys. My point is, I have this ridiculous thing where I'm not afraid of new hardware. And I don't know why that is, unless it is. There was an article last week that said Apple was taking a giant risk with the M1. Apple's not a giant risk company, are they? I mean, they do things that people don't expect, they do things that people might not like, but were they gonna go into this without some kind of idea that they could pull it off? Anyway, it just works. That's what The Verge says. TechCrunch was amazingly impressed with the battery life. In addition to charting battery performance in some real world tests, I also ran a couple of dedicated battery tests. In some cases, they ran so long, I thought I had left it plugged in by mistake. It's that good. I love my computer that I have currently. Honestly, reading these reviews, I've always kept my computer until I almost couldn't use it anymore. That's not completely true. There was one time that I replaced it a little early. I could see the move to M1 prompting an earlier transition than it might have. I easily expect to hold on to a MacBook for anywhere from 4 to 5 years, I would think. I know you probably could squeeze more life out of it. I would imagine that this one will be finding a new home in my home probably by the end of next year, depending on what you see. It's interesting though, because Pocket Lint actually talked about that as well. This goes back to what I was saying a moment ago. The question is, do you need a new computer? And I'm not trying to guilt you out of getting one, but Pocket Lint says the big question: should you go for this MacBook Pro? If you're already hankering for an upgrade and want vastly improved battery life, then this is a good way to go. But be prepared to want the next MacBook Pro after this one even more. And if that's a fear, then it's probably best to wait a year to find out what 2021 will deliver. See, I think that's kind of you'll never buy a computer if you do that. You'll never buy an iPhone if you do that. And if you just want to always save the money and talk yourself out of it, that's fine. But to say, "Oh, I might want the next one next year," well, yeah, you might. I want one of the new MacBooks that came out today, and it's okay that I want that. And if I decide I'm gonna go ahead and, spend money on that, then great. I no longer want it, I have it. Or I can just be like, "Oh, that looks really neat." I then look forward to seeing, what's what. If you're holding out for the next computer because the next computer is gonna be better, you're never getting another computer ever again because the next computer is almost always gonna be better. On In a Few Minutes earlier this week, Allison Sheridan asked me if I would suggest to a friend of hers, because she apparently had a friend who was thinking about getting one of these new machines. And she's like, would you recommend it? And I did the practical thing, not the, genie and the magic lamp thing. I was like, how flush is your friend? And she said, yeah, fine. So I said, go for it because, worst that happens is you sell it to somebody else and then you go and get one of the remaining Intel machines, which are going to be pretty thin on the ground in about a year, would be my guess. Reading these reviews, though, I don't see why anybody wouldn't. That said, I haven't touched one yet. I am the shrug emoji. That said, I haven't touched one yet, and nor do I guess I'm going to anytime soon because yeah, I would imagine the first time I actually touch one of these is when I'm, thinking about actually buying one because you can't just go into an Apple store and start handling stuff these days. I suppose I could make a personal shopper appointment, but I would feel kind of bad knowing going in that I'm not walking out with one unless they're really that good. It's both a wonderful time and a terrible time for Apple to be releasing a new computer. Actually, no, it's a wonderful time for Apple to be releasing a new computer because if there ended up being a battery problem, everybody is working from home anyway. Not everybody, but a lot of people. The people who are just going to go and plunk down the money for this, right? I don't know. It's fine. I look forward to having one day. That one day could be 6 months to a year from now, as opposed to, when I got this 2018 machine, I assumed I would be having it until 2022. We'll see. There are a lot of people here in the chat room specifically, but a lot of people listening to this show I know, I mean, are obviously dedicated Apple people. I'm curious if you got either the new MacBook Air or the new MacBook Pro. And also, if you want to clear me up on whether or not the Mac Mini with the M1 came out, that'd be great. I'm curious what your personal experience with it has been. Um, Also, if anybody thinks I'm crazy for saying go ahead and go for it, See, here's the other problem. This computer that I keep talking about that I have currently, the 2018 MacBook Pro, I know I've complained about it on this show a few times. I'm thinking I'm going to try to make an appointment so that I can drop it off the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and pick it up the Saturday after Thanksgiving so I can finally get the keyboard fixed. There's the crazy thing, right? They should have had this down. This should have been fixed. I want to say that this computer has the third generation of the butterfly keyboard, which I figured, well, it can't. I mean, they can't keep breaking that, can they? Well, it turns out they can. So any time could actually be the wrong time to get. I'm excited for people who got them. If you did get one of these machines, I would love to hear your experience. Do me a favor. You can either leave a comment on this video or you can send me an email, info@macosken.com, info at macosken.com. And yeah, I'd be very appreciative. Let me tell you about some other shows I do really quickly before we talk about the HomePod Mini. I don't know which one to tell you about. Let's do it in a few minutes. That's actually a really fun show that I've been doing coming up on a year. I believe it was the end of January. So it's funny how the new year makes you say, wow, you're coming up on a year. It's really only been 9 months. Just enough time for a wee baby show. So yeah, it's Monday through Friday as well, usually about 10 to 15 minutes. Generally speaking, talking technology with somebody I know, either a writer, a podcaster, friends of mine over the years, just getting together to talk about tech. This week, Mike Rose, formerly of the Unofficial Apple Weblog, currently of the After Show, is my guest. Tremendous amount of fun. I love when he's on. Although he and I sometimes veer away. Like Monday's show, we didn't talk about tech at all, except for something dumb that happened on Twitter. But it's a fun show. I would love it if you would check it out. A couple of ways to do that. Of course, you can search for the show in a few minutes wherever you find podcasts. Also, I've put the integrated or the embedded Apple podcast player on my website, macosken.com. So if you go there, there's a thing on the side that says shows, and you can listen to all my latest shows there. Currently 4 in production. That's ludicrous. Right. Let's talk about HomePod Mini. For the people watching the video, I said I had a prop. This is that prop. It's not really a prop. It's a thing that happened to me. And you say things like that never happen to real people. And I say, real people? Maybe I don't get enough things shipped to me. But what was amazing is this kind of opened like a pack of cigarettes, which I haven't smoked in like 12 years. But there's a little thing that, wrapped around on the top. And then there was this. It didn't come upside down. But there's your HomePod Mini right there. Teeny tiny. I would open it and show it to you on the inside, but it's already set up. Ridiculously small. I personally thought it was kind of light, although other people in the house thought it was heavier than they expected given its size. Sounds great. I thought about not trying to set it up before this because I couldn't remember what it took to set up the HomePod originally, and I didn't want to be in the middle of setting it up when it was time for this. And that was at about 1:30 this afternoon. It was set up in about 4 minutes. I don't know what my problem is. The thing that was most difficult for it seems to have been it needed an update when it arrived. It shipped with the old HomePod, operating system or software, because they don't really call it an operating system for HomePod, do they? It's just the HomePod software. Sounds good. I will confess, I moved my bigger HomePod down to the kitchen, and I had just been listening to that. So going from that one to the other one, the sound is a tiny bit different. That said, I have had the same little like battery-powered or rechargeable Jambox Bluetooth speaker that I used to carry around the house for 6 years, 7 years, and it's just no contest. That thing now sounds ludicrous. The little gem box that I've carried around for a long time, which I want to say cost me like $40, and does almost nothing. I think it'll take calls. I don't know if you can do the hey, what's your name to it thing with it or not. It's basically like if you want the idea of music. It's really good for talk, honestly, because you don't need high fidelity for talk. But anyway, I'm talking about that thing like we're reviewing that thing, and we're not. This is not an actual review of the HomePod Mini, but I am so far very impressed with it. Um, I said the hardest time I had actually was running the software update. The hardest time I had was naming it because I name all of my devices, like all of my generally speaking, my iPhones are something out of Greek antiquity because I'm like that. The computers tend to be places like there's the Hermitage. I think was actually the Hermitage might have been one of my iPads. The Parthenon. Come to think of it, that was an iPad too. I don't know how I named my computer now that I think about it. Except this one I call Studio um, 19 because it's where I do all of my work in my studio. So there you go. It seemed pretty obvious. So I first called them Fat Man and Little Boy. And then I realized I didn't like the idea of having nuclear weapons laying around the house, even in jest. So instead, they're Batman and Robin. But I might change that soon. I don't think Batman would hang out in the kitchen. That's the other problem I'm having. I put one in the kitchen, one in the bedroom, and I think I might have to reverse them. Yeah, little things. I will tell you one thing that was really impressive. Actually, two things that are impressive, although one comes with a side of creepy. I share a home with a few different people, one of whom is 10, not people, years old, one of whom is 10 years old. And I wanted her to try it out because I wanted to make sure that it actually worked with, other people's voices, not just mine, having set it up. And so I called the 10-year-old over and I said, hey, ask it to play a song. And she didn't know how to activate it because she hasn't used a HomePod before. And so I said, you say, I told her really quietly because I didn't want to activate it. And so she chose the song in Japanese. And what's interesting is she's not Japanese, and so her pronunciation isn't necessarily spot on. And yet she said, "Hey, you," and then play whatever the song was in Japanese, and it just picked up immediately. Now, what's funny is I was talking to somebody else near the HomePod Mini about that having happened. I was just telling the story. I don't think I said, "Hey, you," but I was talking about Apple's virtual assistant contextually. And I said, "Yeah, the amazing thing is, yeah, I don't know her pronunciation, whatever, but it picked up right away and it played that song." I mean, even though she asked for it in Japanese, and I'm not even sure that she said it correctly. And then all of a sudden, the HomePod Mini said, "Okay, dude, playing J-pop," which it picked up contextually, which is weird, kind of creepy, kind of cool. I'm kind of bothered by the fact that I didn't say the key phrase that was supposed to set it off, but it thought it heard it anyway. I am amazed though that contextually it heard me talk about music in Japanese and decided that I wanted to hear J-pop. I don't know why it decided I didn't want to hear the Kodo drummers of Japan because that's more my speed, but whatever. Fascinating and weird. Got one bit of feedback. This is actually tying back to something that happened a couple of days ago. Oscar wrote in with his thoughts on Big Sur. I still have not gotten used to the odd little sounds. You know what? Yeah, the odd little sounds, the new odd little sounds, he says. I don't understand why they changed. I will tell you personally, I love the fact that the chime is back. And somebody actually wrote to me as well. I don't have this feedback in front of me, but somebody wrote to me as well and said that one of their clients upgraded to Big Sur and immediately regretted updating to Big Sur. And so they called him and said, "Hey, can you take me back to Catalina?" And he did. But going back to Catalina, the chime on that machine is now reactivated, even for Catalina. So I like the fact that that sound is back. Honestly, that's sort of like a good feeling. Oscar continues, I have had some issues with wake from sleep. Every once in a while, when it wakes, the frontmost program is not selected. The window and title bar is faint gray. The mouse moves the pointer, but the clicks are ignored. Any keyboard input just produces one of the strange noises. I cannot activate mission control, three-finger slide on the trackpad, poking into an active corner, command tab to switch the apps just beeps. He ends up holding the power button until it shuts down. That's not a ringing endorsement, really. I had something happen earlier, and it's one of those things where I actually do use Notification Center or did in Catalina. Um, because like something will pop up and I'll sort of glance at it and think, oh, I want to see that. And so I'm used to just going over there and, doing that. I think it's the two-finger swipe was how it happened that you get the notification center. And yeah, I can't find the notification center, which I guess might be good. Hopefully that'll just mean less distraction while I'm working on my machine. Really, what I should do is figure out how to use notification center again. Because what I need is more distraction. On the plus side, says Oscar, the Photos app is slightly quicker. Keynote pages numbers feel responsive, and I think it looks great. I'm not there on the look. I actually had to yeah, well, that would be telling you about my background is now like yellow. It's somewhere between like I can't even tell you how to like daffodil and a McDonald's yellow because that's they've made the font thinner, I think, which makes everything harder to pick up for me. So I'm having to change, backgrounds and stuff. So the menu bar up at the very top is forever visible. Kind of bummed because I was liking the dynamic thing where it would go from night to day to night to day. Although really for me it goes from day to night and that's it. And that's the biggest problem. Like the text stays dark and then it gets dark on my desktop and maybe it's trying to save me from myself, but not gonna happen. Yeah, so we do this every Monday through Friday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, other times, other places. There's a group of great people hanging out in the chat room, and I'm gonna go talk to them in a moment, as I do every day. I would love it if you were here for that at some point. So thank you very much for watching whenever you're watching or listening whenever you're listening. Try to join us live sometime. 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, Monday through Friday, macOS Ken Live. Got in a few minutes tomorrow, got macOS Ken tomorrow, and then we will meet back here again in 23 hours and some minutes. And I'll talk to you soon. You people are watching me. I shouldn't stick out my tongue. I don't know if Webb asked, but I did hit the record, so that's good. Good evening, Laura, and other people. You can make the menu bar disappear. Well, it just disappears anyway. That was the problem, Frank. I need to use it. Where did the time go? Yeah, I almost said something I shouldn't. You guys are awesome. Right, where are we? Ooh. Matthew got the Series 6 cellular gold with the black solo band. I will honestly, out of all of that, I will be most curious what you think of the solo band. Because I like the fact that I have a few different settings on my watch band, because sometimes it just feels tight. And sometimes I want it to feel tighter. And if there was no choice, I don't know how I'd feel about it. So I'd be curious, Matthew, after a few days of use to hear what you think of that. Do. Oh, interesting. Matthew says, because he actually ordered the watch yesterday, picked it up today. Now to make it faster, they don't put a band in the box. When you order a watch and choose your options, they pick the band and bring it out in a separate box because of Corona. Actually, wouldn't that be part of the whole Apple Watch Studio thing? Because that's part of the whole deal now, where you can choose your watch, you can choose your band. I would assume that would always be separate. Otherwise, they would have to have like every combination ready. Because I assume you would want to, open your stuff by yourself, which is not great as far as packaging and the environmental, thing. Sorry, Bill, I forgot to send that. Bill says he nearly missed everything. I forgot to send it up. Well, I didn't forget. I was running behind until right before the show. Hmm. Normandy says go with M1 if you need a machine just to do general stuff. It will be fine. However, if you have mission critical apps, then stick with Intel for now. Wait 12 months, new iMacs, and probably. And I don't know if you meant probably then. He thinks that'll be brilliant. I'm curious, Normandy, are you thinking that for specific apps? Because for general work, and actually, I mean, and obviously, I haven't tried it at all. For general work, the reviews are saying it seems to be putting through its paces. Are you thinking specifically about? Well, I'm curious. I'm curious what your reticence would be. Charles Goucher is here. Really? There you are. My goodness. How's it going, man? Brian says buy the computer you need when you need it, unless it really is close to a predicted time of a new release, right? That's the one thing I'm curious about. Um, I love the fact that it's called the M1. I think I had brought up on this show. I don't care about the naming of the N1. My point is that they didn't call it A14 or A15 because, we know that the A series comes out once a year. And then you would be in this place. Like I wonder how long it's going to be before we get an M2, if we're going to get an M2. I can't imagine it's going to be next year, or maybe it will be. I don't know. I know we talked on this show about how moving to their own architecture is going to change the way we interact with our computers, not just how we use them, but how we buy them, what our expectations are of upgrades and things like that. We really don't know what the upgrade cycle is going to be until we get like 3 or 4 of them, right? Seems to me. I know one of the things that people have said is that Apple was tired of being held back by, Intel's release schedule and PowerPC before that. Are they going to want to update the processor every 6 months or every year? Or will they also be like, yeah, it's still taking a year and a half, but it's our year and a half? Kind of curious. Nate says that his clients have gotten their M1s, so he'll be looking at them at least by a team viewer tomorrow. That's pretty cool. Yep. Starfleet Universe on call, who I think is Paul, and I keep forgetting, and I apologize if I'm wrong about that. Want to get an M1 MacBook Air, but I have no reason for it other than to have a portable Mac because my current portable computer is my 11-inch iPad Pro. It's hard for me to imagine ever having another desktop. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but it's just I work. The only time I work at a desk is when I'm doing this show. Otherwise, I'm on the couch. I've got this particularly comfortable chair in another part of the house. I go from place to place, and I do like the fact that if we ever get to go back outside, I can take everything I need, to Starbucks or wherever. So I would almost encourage you to get the portable MacBook Air because you sit at a desk. Charles says get a Mac for what you need to run on it, not what it might be on its own. Word. Actually, that should be 3. It's victory, I think. And any of those might have been obscene, and if they were, I apologize. None of them were supposed to be. Charles also says he knows people holding off until there is one with more than 2 USB-C ports. And I'm still happy running a 2014 laptop day to day. I do have one friend who was like, yeah, that's a deal breaker. The lack of USB-C ports is a deal breaker. And that goes into your calculus though, right? I mean, buy the computer that you need. If they're not making that computer yet and you need a new computer, there are still, the Intel computers out there, or because you do know that there's one coming. I mean, even if you don't know, you know they have said that they're transitioning everything over the next 2 years. I'm curious, by the way, if anybody thinks it's gonna be less than that. They're playing in a different world now because so many businesses buy Intel stuff, but they said 2 years. Didn't they finish the transition from PowerPC to Intel 6 months early? Can they still do that? I mean, I know technically, I'm sure they could still do that, but can they still do that? Or do they have to, go along with what they said as far as businesses? Do, do, do. Excuse me. Do, do, do. Ha! There is no listening order, Charles. Sorry. And that's for everybody else to answer. There is a guy in the UK, and I can't remember who it is. I don't think it was Nate. There was somebody who wrote to me from the UK, though, who said there's a problem. In a few minutes, which is supposed to come after Mac OS can, actually usually drops before Mac OS can, and it doesn't matter. It's not a real. It's meant to, like, the audio is meant to make it sound like it's a continuation of a conversation, but it's not a continuation of a particular episode. I'll put everything out as like a 58 volume LP, and I'll write all about it in the liner notes. Huh, interesting. Matthew says he kept setting off the HomePod mini speaker at the Apple Store today when he was talking to a salesperson. I wonder if that's what happened with my J-pop thing. The thing, honestly, that impressed me most with the J-pop thing was the contextual nature of the gaff. I mean, I wish it hadn't thought it needed to do something, but I love the fact that it got right what it thought it needed to do. Nate has an answer for the order of things, Charles. I assume you saw that. You guys, man. Interesting. Yeah. Sorry. Nate says his computers are named after the place that he bought them or where they came from. So his iMac is called Oxford. I don't remember what my iMac was called, honestly. It's been too many years. Huh. Hank actually ordered the M1 MacBook Pro and then canceled it. Decided to wait for more options, more USB ports, bigger screen. Got a 15-inch now. Yeah, that is one thing that would have made. I talk about it like I was thinking about it, but that is one thing that would have made it difficult. If I needed a computer right now, I would have wanted to go with the M1. But yeah, the 13-inch can't do it anymore, I don't think. Yeah, I could. It'd be fine. Like I say, before this computer, I was working off a MacBook Air, so could do it. For that, I would wait. Again, part of the calculus. Yeah, I've got a friend, Normandy, who, Normandy says, I have a few friends in the video production business who have just got M1s, good, but it's not a 16-inch MacBook Pro or a top-end iMac yet. Yeah, I've got a friend who actually does some pretty processor-intensive stuff. He's looking to replace his machine, but now his problem is the screen. You listen to all of the In a Few Minutes at once, Charles? Really? I mean, it's an hour. It's an hour 10. That's interesting, though. A few years. Normandy says he's a video producer, and he'll be holding off a few years with the new Apple Silicon Mac. A few years, really? Because they're going to be done in like a year and a half to 2 years. Or are you just being sensible? I've thought about being sensible. Totally destroying my day-by-day approach. Hey, man, whatever you want to do. And, I put the stuff out there. I love the fact that people are here live because if it was just me by myself doing this, for the live thing, that'd be depressing. So I love the fact that people show up for this. The rest of it, it's entirely up to you when you do. Although I can't imagine like I'm saving up all the Mac OS Kens for a month. I don't think I would do it that way. But again, totally up to you. So Normandy, you're like a hardcore video producer then, because you're talking about iMac Pro and Mac Pro. A few years, just spent $7,000 on a MacBook Pro. Okay, okay. Wow. Okay. Sorry. Charles says if you take the never buy the first generation approach to its logical limits, don't buy new hardware until the third generation. But what about things like the keyboard? I mean, I get what you're saying. Honestly, I mean, I complain about the keyboard and complain about the keyboard, but it's just because I haven't had time to be away from it. If it's catastrophic enough, Apple's going to fix it. I know the only thing keeping this keyboard bad is my inability to leave it for a few days. So, like, maybe I'm ridiculous. I have more trepidation about software than I do about hardware because I assume if they've actually made a physical thing, they know that that thing works. I don't know. 4 different Macs, about $30,000 worth of gear, so upgrading to Apple Silicon now, yeah, not a good return on investment yet. Makes perfect sense. As machines age, they will be replaced, but everything will be cool for at least another year or two. See, that makes perfect sense too. Honestly, I'm gonna forget that I want an M1 MacBook probably in about 4 days, and it's not like I will say, "No, I don't want one," but right now it's all it's doing Mac OS Ken. It's sitting here talking about this. It's reading all the reviews. It's making me think, oh, I really need that. There is nothing that this machine does slowly. When I was doing video, like, editing video, and part of it's because I'm horrible at editing video, but when I was editing video a few weeks back, this machine would churn. I assume that's going to be better, but that's not something I'm going to be doing it again anytime soon. So I'm with you. All right. On all of those happy notes, I'm going to go turn this around to an audio podcast, and then I'm going to go eat something because did I mention running behind right before the show? Um, I do this every time, and I don't want you to think it's not. I hope you know how sincere I'm being when I say how much it means to me that you guys are here doing this. Now, if you can't be here, it's fine. It's not like but it makes me verklempt. I'm touched. So thanks. And hopefully this is, good enough content and fun enough that you'll keep coming back for more because, I'll keep doing it. All right. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. macOS Ken tomorrow morning in a few minutes, whenever the heck you feel like it, Charles. I'll talk to you guys soon.